don't know what I'm doing. I'm here for.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeremy Countryman. I'm the program director with the Family Café, and I'm also the program director of the Café TA Center, which is a mental health technical assistance center that we operate through a grant from SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. So basically, what's going on in this session is that it's pretty much an open forum for mental health. I'll just talk a little bit about, what the Delegate program is and that kind of stuff, and I'll introduce my co-presenters, and then we can just go from there where we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Basically,
You
scared them off pretty
did
quick.
a good job.
I lost my train of thought. Okay, Delegate program, right. So the Family Café Delegates, what they are is they're volunteers who work with us in local communities around the state to kind of connect us with what's going on in those communities, to allow us to, get information about what's going on out there, to help us put out information about what we're doing, that kind of stuff. So one of the things the delegates decided to do a couple of years ago was to have some sessions here at the conference that would be what they call roundtable sessions. So a bunch of people would get together to talk about specific topics that they had in common. So, in different years there have been different numbers of them. This year we have one on autism, we have one on cerebral palsy, and what's the other one? Down syndrome. Thank you. So we've never done a mental health one before, and we currently, as an organization, are more involved in mental health stuff than we've been in a long time, and we've kind of come to the conclusion that mental health is a really important topic for us to talk about and to be active in, because, although we started out primarily dealing with developmental disabilities, we found that there's a lot of crossover between the general disability population and the mental health population, both in terms of people who have diagnoses, if you will, in both areas, and also in terms of some of the issues that come up on either side in terms of legislation and advocacy and all those kinds of things. So, as I mentioned before, we have a mental health technical assistance center. And what that is, it's a big grant from SAMHSA, and it allows us to go to a couple other different states and help mental health organizations get set up with sort of their organizational structure and that kind of stuff. And we also have subject areas that we produce a lot of materials in. The ones we're assigned are supportive education and workforce development. So I'll just, as a little plug for that program, you're all here, so you all know about Family Café. The Café TA Center, has its own website, which is cafeTAcenter.net. It's got its own email list, all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in adult mental health, want to look at some of the trainings and products that we have available, I would encourage you to go check that out, cafeTAcenter.net. And then the other grant we have, which is also from SAMHSA, is a statewide family networking grant for children's mental health. So that basically provides funding to help advocacy around children's mental health here in Florida. So we're trying to do more to help network families that are impacted by children's mental health issues, and get them to sort of work cooperatively with some of the developmental disability population on various issues and things that concern both populations. So so basically the delegates, hi. So we have a bunch of roundtables on different topics, going back to that issue. And the idea behind the roundtable is that essentially as opposed to having, someone come in here and talk at you for an hour. Instead, we all get to talk with each other as a group. So I'm going to stop talking really soon, so you can look forward to that. But before I do, I'm going to introduce a couple people I have here with me. First, I have Stacy over here.
Hey.
I was telling you a little bit about our Cafe TA Center. That grant, we do a lot of work with a consultant called Access Group, and Stacy's with them. She's got her daughter Jordan here, who might be willing to participate. Or she might just be super into her phone. And then I've also invited our friend Heather Hawk, who is active with NAMI of Collier County. And I'll give you a chance to tell everybody all about your CLEAR program and all that kind of stuff, because I know you want to help get the word out about that. But she has a lot of experience dealing with the mental health system here in Florida, and can be part of the conversation in that regard. So really, this is not a sort of structured thing. This is more of an opportunity for us to have a conversation, and hopefully, so if you have a question or an issue, there'll be someone in here who can help you with it, and it won't necessarily be me, although if it was, that would be points for me, so that'd be awesome. So yeah, let Stacy and Heather introduce themselves, and then we just go from there.
I am Stacy. Thank you, Jeremy. I am Stacy. I am actually from Virginia, but do contract work, like Jeremy said, with the Family Café. I provide technical assistance to adult consumer resource organizations within the states of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Utah. And my daughter Jordan is here. She's actually speaking tomorrow on bullying. She's a recovering anorexic who has experienced bullying within the schools. So that's a little bit about me.
I'm Heather. I am from, sorry, buddy. Poor baby. I'm from Florida. I'm a parent with a mental illness and also a parent of a child with a mental illness. I'm a trainer for a program called Peer Specialist, which teaches adults to mentor and help guide either parents through the mental health systems with their children or the adults with mental illness through the system. And I also work for a new project that has a statewide consumer and family grant that is to provide education and training and support throughout the state of Florida to adults and families with mental illness. So we're taking over a lot of the education programs. We're doing like RAP, which is wrapping around, recovery action plans. We're doing peer support programs and stuff like that to get more people involved throughout the state.
Cool, thank you. So, what do you guys want to do now? Should we go around and say who we are, since there aren't that many of us? Or should I just keep talking? I should mention, I didn't mention this, and given the context of what we're doing, I should. I am a person with a mental illness, which you could probably tell, just from talking to me. And I'm also a parent of a child with cerebral palsy. So, I have experience in both the mental health world and the developmental disability world, just as a bit of context. Okay, so.
I actually have a question.
Okay, good.
To define mental illness, how is a proper diagnosis made? Is it actual brain testing that's done, brain mapping? Is it, through any sort of biofeedback? Is it blood test, or is it managing symptoms?
That's a really interesting question. I don't know if have you heard of the DSM? You know what that is?
No.
Okay. What's the S for? Diagnostic Statistical Manual. It's this big, thick book that psychiatrists come up with. They just came up with the fifth one, DSM-5, about, I guess it was last month. They just came out with it. And, they spend years sort of discussing what's going to go in it, what's not going to go in it, what counts, what doesn't count. And there's a lot of controversy as to what goes in it or not. And I think that's one of the things about mental health that makes it unique, is that, going back to your question, a lot of these things are not defined by pathology the way a physical disease would be. For heart disease or cancer or whatever can be identified on a cellular level, right? Most of the mental health diagnoses are symptom-based. So they'll sort of have a cluster of potential symptoms. Let's say there are 10 things, right, that would indicate a particular condition. And they'll say if you have 3 of these things, then you have a mild version of it. If you have 6 of these things, then you have it. If you have 9 of them, then you have a severe case of it. So it's weird because it's not like cancer or chickenpox or something like that. It's being measured in a really subjective way, and I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of people who get into mental health advocacy tend to be wary of the DSM and the way psychiatrists make these decisions, because they feel like it doesn't have the type of well-defined credibility that some of the physical conditions do. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
it's based off just basically interactions with the individual and what the individual responds back to the questions.
Right.
Do you do that? They go down, they literally say, do you do this? Do you do this? How often do you do this?
I can give you an example. My son, I'll tell you all of his diagnoses, and they're all from different doctors and different opinions. He has autism, he has childhood disintegrative disorder, he has pervasive developmental disability disorder, he has a binge eating disorder, he has severe and major depression, he has bipolar disorder, he has schizophrenia, he has schizoaffective disorder, he has an anxiety disorder, a sleep disorder, and Tourette syndrome. So it's here, I see these symptoms today, here's your label today.
Yeah,
It's-
that's the problem.
It's observable and self-reported symptoms and behaviors.
See, that's what I just so disagree with, because every day you go could be a different
Exactly.
person you're
Yeah.
seeing,
Yep.
depending on the effects of the day before.
Most definitely.
So, to me, it causes so much of misdiagnosis that way.
And that's an issue.
And over-medicating.
That's an issue I know in particular that's of controversy with the new DSM coming out, because one of the concerns is that the psychiatric labeling realm is sort of seeping more into the normal human experience realm, where they're starting to include things that you think shouldn't really be considered a mental illness, like grief disorders and things like that. Where of course this person's experiencing grief if they lost somebody. Isn't that a normal human reaction? But no, now we're going to treat it as a medical condition because it meets these particular criteria. So that becomes a problem because some things are straightforward, and some things they even try to examine the brain science behind them, like schizophrenia is a good example. It's one of the more studied, relatively better understood things where they can point to some biological brain things that they think are happening. But things like grief, for example, you would think this is a normal human reaction. Why is it being included in this diagnostic manual?
But they started medicating grief, and antidepressants, and all of that now.
Right.
And I think there's a difference between self-report and family report, parent report, because not even just our children, but my son just asked me, what do you do this, do you do this? She asked me, what do people tell you that you do? Because she doesn't even ask.
So she wants like third-party reports about your behavior?
Ask me, do you think, she does ask me, do you think you do this, do you think you do this, but most of the time she says, well, what do people say, what do people tell you, people that are close to you, or your family, or whatever, what do they tell you about what you do? And I just tell her. I think she seems to think that's more accurate than my interpretation of my own behavior.
Right, well, not even to mention the fact that she's asking you to say what someone else said. She's not asking that person. So you could be somehow modifying what the other person is saying about you in addition to whatever you're doing in the first
And I
place.
think the same thing with children. So I do think looking back now, she's pretty much older. And now when you go, I remember, so when we remember, I can remember, she went away. She went to charter, she was drunk, she stayed there for months. It was our family was involved. And then we let this, I have an 8-year-old who's been interacted twice. They spent literally 5 seconds with him, changed his parents, sent him home in 48 hours, and then asked me in 10 days if it worked. If not, they changed it again.
Right.
Meanwhile, he's 8 and physically abusing adults and, sending his teacher and ambulance to the hospital. So it's just, and he's not diagnosed. He's diagnosed with a mood disorder because he's 8 and they're calling him a mood disorder until the diagnostic book says that he's old enough to have diagnosis.
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead, Jenny.
I like the music. I like the music.
Oh, yeah?
I like to sing with the music. I like.
Do you like Family Café?
I like the hot tub when you go. I'm with you, Jen.
These are all good things for your mental health.
Yes, definitely.
Music, hot tubs,
Dancing,
preferable,
singing.
preferable to medication.
Yes,
Really.
definitely.
Singing, even when people tell you to not sing.
Yes.
My sister told me not to sing.
God.
That's when you should sing even louder.
In your ear, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for you in regards to not just of diagnosing, but how do you feel? I come from a rather small county in the state. All the children with mental health have the ED label. My child does not. We have the ASD label and OHI on the side of the but
What's the, what are those?
he's in a room with emotional behavior disturbed children. He's autistic, ED, and like I said, an undiagnosed mood disorder, and he's got OHI for ADHD. Needless to say, he's in a self-contained room with children that are diagnosed solely with emotional behavior disorder. Not that I'm trying to say that his behavior is that much different from them, but anything he didn't do before he went on that, he does now.
Well, that's documented.
And I guess I just was curious about advocating. I'm a pretty good advocate, but it's really hard to get out there.
You don't need to. Use the McKay Scholarship, I did.
Yeah, but in our county,
Yeah.
it's not
No,
private.
yeah, we're not, we're not there.
You
There's
can't
not-
use the McKay Scholarship?
Yeah,
I was just
there's
saying there
not-
wouldn't be any
there's
place
not
to put
schools.
them.
There's
There's
not
no place to put
alternatives.
And there's a place to put him, but not, I wouldn't be doing him I'd be
No.
doing an injustice because they would be asking me to leave after 10 days and then I would be McKay Scholarship hopping and we're not there yet.
We didn't have any choice. There was an issue of bullying in the school, in the SED program,
Yeah.
and the family member had to be hospitalized and I came really close to losing her. So the SED, that was just, had to go. So the McKay Scholarship, thank God we were able to, because we live in Duval. But,
Yeah, it's definitely accessible to us. I guess just what I'm saying as a parent, I will essentially, for us in our county, you lose a little bit of rights, meaning, half of our counties and the schools in our county are religious based and we'll be out in 10 days. I would just be hopping.
And then you'd be waiting a quarter to put him back in somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, so
They're
I'm
hoping to.
okay. I prefer the Department of Education where the laws are written and I get to say, sorry, you don't get to do that. But I do
Yeah.
have a hard time getting him self-contained.
Was he provided additional supports and services before he went to a self-contained classroom?
No, not long enough. Not for at least the 6 months that they,
Does he have a functional behavioral assessment and a
Yes.
behavior plan
Yeah,
before he was moved to self-contained?
yeah. And it's not being used.
Did they
It's
try a
being
one-on-one with
implemented.
them?
Huh?
Did they try a one-on-one with them?
No, and that was one thing I remember we talked about that at the meeting. I just feel like, in our county, they have center schools. My child does go to a center school, and the fact that they have self-contained units is kind of used as a crutch. If I was enforcing you need to service him at his zone school where they didn't have a self-contained unit, they would be able to use that room as a crutch. And I feel like they would be doing accommodations in the room to make it work. I guess I just wanted to know if there was a secret to help the situation.
I would be asking if there's any less behavioral and intensive classes that he could spend part of the day in.
Yeah.
Maybe go out to an elective
With an aid?
with an aid,
yeah.
with an aid, and just experience that. Maybe he goes for 5-10 minutes to start.
Which she actually does, but, okay, so with the aid is the hardest part that's the hardest part that we can.
So they're resistant back just because of staffing issues or
Um,
whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a staffing for it, which is really ridiculous.
So what you get in the meeting is you get them to say that, he needs additional assistance with his behavior. We need to, because you're saying he has violent behaviors, right?
Yeah, which I've actually decreased tenfold. I mean,
Awesome.
He's definitely way far. We're
But-
in second grade now, so we're far better than kindergarten.
To not regress, he needs that additional assistance. We want to make sure nobody else gets hurt here. I, as a mom, I don't want to see anybody hurt. So, is there an aid that you can put with him part of the day? Just this 30 minutes. I'm not asking for an aid, the whole school day all year, but just till we make this transition, and you can just keep making those transitions longer and longer until you're ready to go and say, we don't need this level of behavior.
Yeah, I think it's so, and I think this is kind of across the board in a lot of mental health situations. If you can feel like you're moving forward in some kind of positive way, that makes such a tremendous difference in the way you feel about everything. When you're really stagnated and you don't see any progress and feel like there are no options, that's really disempowering and debilitating. I think in situations like that, it can end up exacerbating some of the negative behaviors. If you can find, like Heather was saying, just a tiny sliver of something positive, then you have that to build on, and you feel like you're getting somewhere. So yeah, I think try to settle them on something small for starters.
And I
Might
actually
be a
think
good way
they
to go.
actually do pretty well with that. I just think they're on the group education plan system versus the individual education plan system.
Right.
Meaning, he's in a classroom with massive modified behavior supports. So even while the Sunshine State Standard says he should be participating in a 60-minute math lesson, he's participating in a 20-minute math lesson with a 40-minute reward of something that I definitely would be using at home for a reward, which is a whole other story. And they're not bridging the gap between more time in academics and less time with positive behavior support. I think the positive behavior support has to be there, but I don't think in a self-contained environment they're reducing the support time and increasing the academic time. They're just letting them stay stagnant.
Right.
Yeah, that's the same problem I'm having, not with the mental health, but with the developmental disabilities. And she has an emerging speech and language, and they have her in what I would call an old, if maybe y'all aren't familiar with it, like 40 years ago, they call it the trainably mentally retarded class, TMR.
Right.
And, it has not helped her speech whatsoever. And it's been very, very frustrating. And to know that there are things in place, but there doesn't seem to be very much movement. I mean, people know what the problems are, and yet we have these nonprofits that are set up, and we have state agencies, and everybody knows what the problems are, but everybody can't do anything about it. So there has to be some other answers. There has to be more aggressive, I'll use the word aggressive now, and more aggressive advocating for people that supposedly things are in place, but in actuality they're not. Like the McKay Scholarship. Okay, well, we waited the year, that we had to be here for it. But they're not private schools, only religious schools. They're not taking them in the next county. The ones that they're your own district, you might have to even transport them, even though I'm finding out that school is closer than the one they wanted to go to school with. So there are a lot of
They don't
problems,
necessarily
yet
operate in
there are
services.
people are just sort of, everybody knows about it, everybody's got a job, but nothing's, all the kids are falling through the cracks. And I can only tell you my own experience with my grandson, his mother was a special needs. I mean, she was exceptionally high functioning, but it was a one-parent household. It was very difficult. He was very frustrated, very angry, and they're real quick to diagnose the kid, real quick, and put him on all these different meds that even can help him act out even more. And we just had a recent change. Well, we took him for about 3 months, 2 years ago, because he kept on getting in trouble like yours were, and they kept on putting him in a psych hospital. And he even said, this is how smart they are, he said, well, if I was, I'll just go. And so I said, no, you're not going to take a vacation. over at the hospital. You're staying right here with grandpa and grandma, and you will do what you need to do. Well, in 3 months' time, with going to a special school, that we picked him up every day, I mean, it was hands-on stuff, we turned him around. And now he's with my daughter, because we have her now. But, he's doing exceptionally well. And she is homeschooling, because again, we were having problems with the school, and that was in Virginia. So
Yeah.
it's not just Florida, it's happening.
Right.
Yes, oh yeah, it's everywhere. I homeschool. Jordan is homeschooled, currently right now too. And I used to live in Florida too, so we've only lived in Virginia for 6 years.
Where are you from?
In Virginia,
Oh, where about?
down by Bristol, Damascus, Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We up Virginia, we're in Richmond.
Oh, okay, yeah. You're in there's more offer over there. We have mountains and woods and stuff.
Y'all the low country.
Yes. Yes. So we've only lived in Virginia for 6 years, but she is homeschooled too.
It seems like everybody is fighting everybody anymore. I retired from school counseling 20 years ago. And we used to try to work out problems with groups and psychology and social worker and principal. And we, in smaller schools, we talked it over. Grandma came in, or we made a contract, and everybody lived up to that contract. They don't do that anymore, I guess, huh? I mean,
Well,
Well, the school that my daughter was in
Depends.
is
Some
very
do
much
very
like
well,
that.
some.
there's some do, some, and then all this charter and all this homeschool and all, and everything works, it seems like. If you can go to a free charter school, yeah. I mean, that's gonna be a better deal, right? You can get into it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the private schools that you really want to get your child into, they don't offer any services at all, so you're pulling your kid out, losing half the day.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
yeah, I think one of the
Don't
reasons
take
that
your
it kind of gets
payment.
contentious is it becomes a resource issue. You know, like you were talking
Yeah.
about with trying to get an aid.
you have to-
You know, I guess this becomes a little bit bigger issue, you know, about the whole school system and about how the way things are prioritized by the state and what have you. But oftentimes, it takes a little bit more time and energy to give the level of attention and problem solving that you need to customize things so an individual child will succeed. And it takes a lot fewer resources to say, you know, give this kid lithium, moved on, you know, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, I don't know, I don't really know what to do about that. Sometimes it seems like something of an advocacy issue where, you know, people have to be willing to get together and say, you know, we
Yeah.
need
Well, there are a
the
lot of parents
resources
that
for
are
these
just
children.
less-
Our county is $17 million short, supposedly, we just found out a couple of months ago. St. Lucie County, if everybody wants to know. It's $17 million short, and I knew the school superintendent was leaving when he put that on the robocall. And that's what it is, he's retiring again, I understand. So the bottom line is, how can you ask for anything if you already know there's the school district $17 million short? You know, so it goes back to resources, but there are programs that have been in place that are research-based, evidence-based, all the new buzzwords you want to say, right in the next county, where they're using, I think it was on the program of peer mentors, where the kids in ESE are using peer mentors, and they're teachers that also know that they need to be mainstream in every chance, and so it's happening, and other school districts know about it. It's just, the problem is there's again a disconnect between the state, what the state says they should be doing, and what the local governments have the autonomy to do. And in between, again, are the parents and the kids. And we're stuck because the local people don't have to do anything that the state says because it's autonomous. So there
Right.
again, we're in a systemic issues that we're trying to address the same way and getting the same results, which we all know what that means. This is a mental health thing, isn't it? It's saying, and if you weren't cuckoo before, you certainly can go there.
Right.
On that specific note, she's right. I think there's not enough state regulation being enforced locally. 2 examples would be continuum of services. counties are allowed to develop their own continuum of services. So you're gonna tell me in Hernando County, who is neighbored by Pinellas, Pasco, Sumter, and Citrus, every single one of them wean kids from self-contained to resource, and then include, they have all of that. No, and in Hernando County, we're too small, so if we need self-contained, we go to a center school, these restricted out the door, gone. That's the first thing, and then ADA, people coming in, services coming in from the outside. Okay, so you don't have enough money to provide my kids services. Okay, well, I have insurance, and I'm willing to set up for my child the services, and even have my own ADA therapist come in, not tell you guys what to do, but assist you helping with my child, because he can bill my insurance for being with my child all day long, but you won't let them come in because you quote unquote have your own behavior therapist on staff that probably haven't seen my child this entire school year.
Yeah.
So the state needs to be, but other counties, that's it. Like some counties are like, oh, you have an ABA therapist that can come in, we won't have to deal with your kid's child, okay, let them come in. Mine would go with my kid every day, but it's like a control thing.
You hear somebody who's very intelligent and very articulate, and if she's having difficulty,
Yeah.
what do you think so many other young parents are having?
Oh, they don't have no
Well, some of them don't want to have a clue.
They don't have a clue.
I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, the travesty of the situation is what happened to my daughter was 13 years ago in 2000, and here it's still going on. I mean, that's a shame. And here, what you're saying about this young lady, I was working for the state of Florida. I had worked for the state of Florida for 17 years, and I knew about these things, the schools, all this FAP and all this stuff. And here it happened to me. I mean, to us, So it's like, I don't know when this state's going to change, because mental illness is still back in the back ages from 1800, whatever. Things are still not where they should be. So I don't
Well,
know.
it's been worked into the forefront lately, mental health issues, and so
Yeah.
I think people are starting to pay a little bit more attention to it, probably just to get it out of their hair, I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably because they're afraid, yeah.
And I'll say some parents are getting together, like parents of Collier County Schools down in Naples, filed a class action lawsuit against their whole school district for not providing appropriate services.
Good.
So parents can get together and can unite and fight for that. But I mean, even this year, funding for low-income lawyers was cut with the
Sequestration.
Yeah. So a lot of areas lost their free legal aid.
Could
And those
TAC
are the
or
ones
change
fighting
some of that?
for schools.
What she's talking about, could TAC or was it Cafe TAC, or change help with that and educate, the schools or something so that things aren't the way they are anymore?
I was going to ask you too about, what are their specific goals? Like you said, they're going into places and doing things. Obviously, those school districts /
We're not doing school districts.
Okay, so mental health facilities, programs.
No, it's actually with the families and the individuals with mental illness.
So they
That's
would-
our focus.
So they would, and how would somebody seek those services? Like what group would they belong to seek the?
We
that
don't provide
assistance?
direct services, we provide education. So like one of our classes coming up in Clearwater is Parents as Partners.
Okay.
So we'll be teaching that group of parents how to advocate within the mental health system and within the school system and form that partnership, Parents as Partners.
So what is like the organization that puts on the
Clear.
classes? Clear?
Yep. Connecting leadership, education, advocacy for recovery.
Is that new?
Clear.com.
Brand
Yeah.
new. There's no website yet.
But the problem is you can teach all day long parents that we're partners, but if you don't get it to the right people to let them know that we are partners, it's not working. Because I maintain I'm a partner, but they're making decisions for me. And then if you say anything, if you're assertive, which they're not used to assertive people, then you're seen as a troublemaker. And the bottom line is they just write you off completely.
I don't think they're right. You want to speak against the oil.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm trying
It's
disability
not fun,
rights
and
to
it'll
see,
knock you to the floor.
to see how well disability rights can do, but I don't have a very good feeling that from other parents that, if they know what the problems are, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and they're willing to spend all kinds of money fighting that
fight it, yeah.
instead of putting the money towards where it needs to go. And that's what's sick about it. Who's mentally ill?
What agency could your new nonprofit be able to decipher information? Okay, because that's one of the things, the flow of information is very difficult. For instance, I never knew about your
Right.
organization. Now, would APD be the proper person to
No, because it's
fill
mental
that?
health.
Pardon me?
It's mental health,
Yeah.
not developmental disabilities.
Mental health is Department of Children and Families in terms of
Well,
state agencies.
But my
that
contention is,
charge.
the problem is we don't need to be working in silos anymore.
Right.
That's the problem. You know,
Right.
then APD is a agency in which they might be able to decipher that information.
And I have sent the information to everybody in the agencies for persons with disability. I was just at the State Family Care Council meeting and gave them all the information. So I'm getting it out there as best I can. Like I send out an email blast to 6,000 people a month. And most of the people it's going to are agencies, and school districts, and parent groups.
Well,
But
you know,
I can't get the information out farther than that
the
because they're not
The
sharing.
school has always blocked information.
Yeah.
Always. 40-some years I'm doing this dance and they're still blocking it. So if Family Care Council is an agency that can be able to help you get that, I'm on their mailing list, then if they did that, then I would get that and we would know. And then we would know what's happening with
Right.
your group. Yeah.
And I've sent out to a lot of mailing lists in Florida. It's just if they send it out. Because I can forward it to them and provide it to them,
I know.
but it's up to them to take it from there. And I'm not a NAMI Florida employee. That's the state level. There's 36 affiliates in the state. And I work for one of the affiliates. But I have a statewide grant.
Oh,
So, I mean, getting that information out can be hard. But our website address is NAMI, N-A-M-I, Collier.org. And I do run a 24/7 access line that I do answer. And it's available anytime, parents, families, individuals. So that's all the time at 1-800-945-1355, and that's all I do all day. Go to IEP meetings and take calls and train.
We have local non-organization, once again, small town, people don't access it, they don't want to use it. They're trying to stay alive. I'm talking, separate from education, on the fast and mental health side, we just lost our children's unit in the county. Because you set up the free aid funding, so we had a unit that was through daycare and it was closed, and so now we have a different fight going on in our county of whose responsibility is it to transport children, and how far are they being transported to find a bed? It's pretty far, north, south, east, wherever there's bed, can't go west, but, and NAMI is really working on that right now, so I'm not gonna say it's a bad focus. It's just that they're like mainly focused on that, so they're definitely not looking to help educate the education system, but I don't know, my child was figured out that after the local hospital already closed, so I didn't really think it was different. I didn't really know it was different, and they were like, hey, you have to drive 50 minutes to see your kid to Ocala. I didn't even know that people had a problem with that. I didn't even care. I was like, okay. But evidently, that's not a good thing, and people are very upset that there's not closer local help. So they basically take them to, an adult facility. Sometimes they hold them in the front because they can't be mixed in with the adults for, it's in the newspaper, 12 to 18 hours until they can find a bed for them.
With
And then-
youth?
Yeah, it's, there's no receiving facility in the county anymore. So they receive them at the adult facility, they leave them in the front for triage for hours, sometimes up to 12, 18 hours while they're looking for a bed. And then it becomes a matter of whose responsibility is going to be the transport. It's going to be the local sheriff's office, the receiving hospital, the sending hospital, or the receiving sheriffs, and it's just doesn't stop.
Oh, that's just so healthy, isn't it?
If,
I mean, when they're already
My
melting down.
child's done that twice, so.
Wow.
If you can get those calls into my office, I log them, I work on them, and we get them directly to the Department of Children and Family Substance and Mental Health Program to get those issues resolved. That is the exact purpose of our program, is to find those gaps where the problems are, tell DCF and get them on it.
One of the things that the gentleman said about all the problems can't be solved at the fed level, and I don't know, the state level. My question is, it's always about the money. follow the money. It's all about the money. If it's about the money, then let's start thinking outside the box. We know there's some children that are going to need a timeout, okay? My grandson used to take it on the state of Virginia. So, they have houses now that are set up for, I'm not sure what they call them, but they're safe houses. They have, in other words, it's a lot less than maybe $3,500 a night at a psychiatric hospital,
Yeah.
where, he could get the care, he could get the time out. We need to be thinking at a local level, outside the box, how to make things work. Because what we're doing now, and relying on other people who don't have the problems like we do, it's not working. So why don't we, that would be one suggestion I would bring to your group. Why not think about a community house, safe house?
South where you guys are at, we also have that, but to get on the qualification, we have a specific coordinator through the care network, and not blaming them, but we have a designated person that services our county through the care network / SEDNet and the care network work together to filter children who would need to go to a residential placement for a period of time. Once again, it's flawed again. You really have to have been corrected like several times before you can even make headway on the waiting list for a residential facility. So I'm not talking
Is
about
that for a
people-
SIP program, the statewide inpatient psychiatric program?
I don't know that answer, honestly. It's probably, like you go on, you meet them, they come and they do the assessment, but, unless you've got a good case of, he's been, in my case, I can only speak for us. We've got, a biological mom, a biological dad in the home. We kind of got some anxiety, but it came after that, so what a good deal.
Right.
And, you've got siblings, you've got people with jobs, you don't have drug and alcohol and substance abuse, and I still have a child who is pretty intense. It's intense. I'm not saying that other people's children, there's an excuse, but, and you still can. You can't get help because the psychiatrists are so beat down. They see so many kids a day that were brought in from under group foster home van, or they're so beat down, and when you have a parent who's in there trying to communicate to them, no. It's 5 seconds, fill out your answer, here's your script, bye. You cannot get help for your child unless it's
I just want to, first of all, apologize for coming late. I went down to a different room and I didn't see Heather the dog, so started looking around. My name is Dee O'Neill, and I think a roundtable on mental health is really important. Okay, we've had so many public issues that have happened. You mentioned Newtown as one, where it's not just become our county issue, it has become a national issue. It has come down to, is this going to be my kid kind of scenario? And I think that it's so important that when we come to the table, when we come to discussions, that we are focused on solutions too. We can state the problem. We know as parents, I have 2 children with mental health issues. We know the problem. We can describe the problem. We can describe everything that didn't work. But to start addressing it at a county level, you need to come in with, I love the word out of the box thinking. What can we do that's fair? What do we know that's fair? You first start with, do we have any community resources? If those don't work, what is the next county do? What is an example of what's happening? There's a lot of things online that you can get access to that has some solutions to it. So if you don't know one, come up with one and then go to your county meeting and start mentioning it. Because I also want to throw up for the family, the Federation of Families, because they have a lot of national resources right now. And I just got an email the other day of the president speaking and a couple different people speaking from the White House on mental health. Yeah. So the fact is this is becoming a household name, and we're trying to change it from a child that is a bad child to a child that is ill, that this is an illness, that this isn't bad. And I'm going to tell just a short scenario to give an explanation. When my older son was 6 and had cancer, I had 6 months worth of fridge in the home. I got letters from all the kids at school. I was supported by the community. When that same child, 6 years later, from post-traumatic stress and everything, became suicidal, I became a bad mom.
Yep.
I didn't have the support. I didn't have people running in my home. But see, I was aware as a parent that my child was going to head in this potential direction because of the meds, because of the chemo and because of his evaluation that was done. And, we always use that word, I think it's important, we always use that word fight. We're fighting. We're not really fighting. We are trying to find a way to work with you. And I think that's so different because I go to IEP meetings a lot. That's what I've done for the last couple of years. And I always tell them the public school may not be the one you want, but the other one may not be that one either. That a private school doesn't have to serve your child, or a public school. So I just think there's a collaboration that we have an opportunity as a mental health group to grab right now. That there is money becoming available for
People
mental
are
health.
listening.
And part of the organization, and I was just told this, and I think it's a great idea, that we should start talking to is the NRA. I'm not a big gun person, guys. I don't put it in my house. I got 2 kids that have been suicidal. But the NRA is fighting to keep their guns, and they want the issue to be on mental health.
Yeah.
They got a lot of money.
What does the NRA stand for?
Oh, it's the National Rifle Association. And so what I'm trying to say is that there are people that are talking about what's going on, what are we doing, how are we helping you? Because even though you're the parent, we have to be that village. We have to be able to reach out and say that. And I've had huge success with my kids in school. But granted, I'm in a county that probably has more services in the entire state of
Where's
Florida.
that on my list?
Hillsborough County.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to tell you, I found that out when I moved to Florida and my son was diagnosed. And I moved over to Hillsborough County in 3 weeks. And I spent 3 years looking for a house in the school district I knew I needed to be in. And then I went to work for the school district so I could know everybody. And then I figured out how to get my kids out. So I came through the back door. Okay?
Hold me for a second, we're borderline moving, as soon as it's happening, we're coming.
No, I'm going to tell you, I dropped that house and just went because I knew I needed to get there before my kids got into the situation. And not my, I was told my kid should have been in jail already. And he just graduated today from 8th grade with honors.
All right. Awesome.
So I want to say there's a lot of success and there's a lot of ways that we can work together.
We came in late. You mentioned the CLEAR program. Is that a new program that's starting up?
Yes, it's through NAMI Collier. It's a statewide grant for consumers and families. We do an access line for any access issues, and we do community outreach and education.
What does it stand for again?
Connecting leadership, education, and advocacy for recovery. We're having acronyms now.
You sign up for your email? You got a list?
If somebody has paper and pen, I will add everybody to the list. I
Yeah,
just
great.
don't have.
Okay. I think they dropped the ball on us several years ago when there was a push to get rid of mental illness and make it neurobiological, which basically it all is neurobiological, period.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of, in Virginia, I don't know, I guess I don't know if it's the same thing in Florida. The last time the meeting, I think they're having a lot of real interest and a lot of luck with using magnets. Have y'all heard about that?
What?
It made a big difference in.
You mean as a treatment thing?
Magnet treatment, yeah. So it's real interesting.
I just keep thinking about all the screws loose in my head. That was awful. I'm sorry.
But it's a shame. I mean, we're still going to fight that thing.
Yeah, we're still
The
back in
problem
dark
is
ages.
when your child becomes 18, that's it. You've had all the chances.
Yep.
Everybody says, sorry, he's an adult, they're an adult.
They're
So
okay
maybe this
now.
is- Yeah, and that's the easy way because then nobody has to really do anything. And there's, I don't know, when we walked in, we were talking about it too. There is a technical term, a medical term, and I can't pronounce it. And it starts with that, like an something. And I learned that only 3 years ago. That most people that have the mental disabilities, mental health issues, neurobiological issues, it's right temporal lobe, and it's because of the condition. They don't know. They don't understand.
Yeah, really.
And I didn't realize that there was a technical term to it, and that piece of education needs to get out also.
It actually is. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on at the level. I can give you some emails that actually have some great download pamphlets that you can give the schools to talk about mental illness as a brain injury.
Yes,
I just
because
did-
it is.
It is. Well, no, they show you, and they show you the scan of the brain, and they show you the reaction time of the kids. And so it has changed. It's one of those things. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take some re-educating. And the people that we are re-educating are the educators.
Yeah.
And that really, organizations like you were maybe working with fiddlers to get into the school districts themselves, so they have some mandatory education of the principals, the administration, as well as the teachers, because, they're not going to listen to the parents. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they'll start listening when their child is mentally ill.
Well, that's one of my things. I started not turning the other cheek and wanting to say to them under my breath, it takes less than 30 seconds for you to have a child just like mine. And that's, you're susceptible to a TBI just like that. And it's the same thing, whether you have a mental illness, whether it's TBI. Bottom line, you get a lot of the same behaviors and you get a lot of the same heartaches. And I think everybody should have one in every family. Maybe then they'll know what we go through.
I think one of the things that is starting to happen is that we are starting prevention earlier with family members of what are signs of mental illness. Because to me, when we know our child has mental illness, well, we're in the middle of a crisis. We didn't start with parents, from birth to 2 or from 3 to 5, because they don't want to say mental illness for infants, but it is biological and it is tested and you can see it. And we can't give our kids the 3 big diagnoses of depression, bipolar or schizophrenia until they're 18. So they're all going to be ADHD and under different categories. Those are the 3 major mental health issues outside of personalities and other stuff. But the reason I say that is that there are statistics that you can give to people and help them understand. And one I just heard the other day is that the leading cause of death in the state of Florida for 9-year-old to 12-year-old boys was suicide. That is a reality.
In Florida?
The age of 9 to 12 in the state of Florida, the #1 cause of death is suicide in the state of Florida. Now, there may be other ones, but statistically, kids are using drugs sooner, so they're self-medicating, so it's harder to diagnose them. So they get a label, but they don't get the right diagnosis till later. So, how do we as a society start helping people? We got to get to them earlier. And I have to tell you, in my story, I was blessed because I knew both of my children from a very, very young age were going to have this problem. It was not just genetic, it was brain injury, and it was cancer. And I knew. I had booklets that told me my kids were going this way. A lot of people don't have that. So I know from my perspective that I was able to intervene in my kids' lives early. And that's part of the solution I talk about with people, is starting earlier.
Three.
getting them.
We've
Right.
had people in the home since he was 3. I don't really think that's very, I can't say that we've made 5 years worth of progress by any means. That's now he's 8.
What do you think would have helped you? What do you think would
Well,
really?
it did
would
help,
have
don't get me wrong, the services that came into the house did help. It helped me not increase or intensify as far as, the science of behavior. That education to me, to the science of behavior, was worth $1 million. I would take that over $1 million. But I still can't change the chemical, he definitely goes months now with 0 behaviors. But you better believe when it happens, it's bad. It's bad like it happens in 5 seconds, and it happens really bad. And they don't say anything to me. Like, I don't get you're a bad mom, because they really can't. They know I'm there every day, like, what do you guys want me to do? But at the same time, they don't give him better treatment. Yeah, change meds, send us on our way until the next time he attempts to murder you. Honestly, that's really what we do. I was going to ask her, you didn't share a lot of your story, and I don't know if there was any other issues that led, but how do you know I don't think that if my child was being bullied, this may sound totally stupid, that he he would even know. He does also have a label of autism, and I don't know that my child knows when he's being bullied or that he knows to communicate that to me. That makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, that's scary.
See why?
Yeah.
So like when she's talking about suicide, and I'm reading like about the classes, and it's like when you go, go because you want to, how you can get on board with bullying. I don't think my kid has a clue.
And probably not, and like what Jordan's gonna talk about tomorrow in her session is bullying is kind of like a habit or learned accepted societal behavior nowadays.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids don't know that they are being bullied or that they are the bully. So,
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It doesn't always come from families that have beaten up on their kids and bullied their kids. It's
Correct.
because they derive satisfaction from it.
correct.
And that's the sick.
Correct. And that's one thing she'll talk about tomorrow. And she is actually, the one that picked up on it first. She didn't feel secure. And it wasn't just kids. It was school administration, basketball coaches, and other people that were encouraging the bullying from the children.
Well, if they're not discouraging it, they are encouraging it.
Exactly. So she's actually the one that picked up on it first. But because it is such a habit and a society accepts, this or, picking, oh, you're a loser, and stuff like that. A lot of kids don't see that as bullying. But yet it may affect a person different. I mean, it hurts when someone calls you a loser,
Yeah, I had a counselor tell my daughter just the other day that, honey, it's not bullying, it's just teasing. Everybody teases.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we'll be looking for an
I'm afraid my kid will hear them tell other people that and learn in turn because he obviously learns it. I think he will learn, I can't complain about this because I watch them tell A, B, and C not to report it, not to complain about it, not to just sit down and be quiet. And I just think he won't say anything and he'll just keep,
And
that
she
scares me.
And unfortunately, she went for a year, and she tried to stick it out, and she did stay in school and did try to, try to do everything to try to rectify the bullying for it to stop. But because nobody was taking care of it, she thought that maybe she should it's going to happen, so let's just go to school and let's just not do with it. But then she decided that no, she doesn't have to. She didn't have to put up with it. So.
Well,
But bullying will probably be in DSMR 6.
Both the perpetrator and the victim.
yeah. Could I just, my daughter, I adopted her at birth, and we weren't anticipating a lot of problems, but we were anticipating some because the birth mother is an alcoholic. She said she was in recovery for a year prior to getting pregnant. Well, that's not true. Because my daughter clearly has all the earmarks of fetal alcohol spectrum, and she's stuck in fight or flight all the time. She sees black and white, and if you are teasing her, it's bullying because she doesn't get it. She doesn't get a joke. She likes Three Stooges because that's like slapstick, but anything other than that, any innuendos, it's like you're making fun of her. And so she lives in like constant disarray. She is completely suicidal, depressed. I mean, she's 16 and she's a beautiful girl, and guys play her all the time. They try to anyway, but helicopter mom. I picked up her cell phone one day, and this guy was just in the middle of texting her saying, "I'll send me a picture of mine if you send me a picture of yours." And I just kind of like texted him back, and I said, "You might want to go tell your mom why the police are going to come and visit you." But my problem is that I know that fetal alcohol is what she suffers with, and that can be bipolar, it can be all kinds of other things under the spectrum, but I'm having a hard time getting anybody to diagnose her. And I went to a psychiatrist, and unfortunately he was just the wrong psychiatrist because he's one of these, he came in an hour late, had nothing else to do, just came in an hour late because he couldn't get there, I guess. And he did that twice, and I told him And, but he just kind of sat down, he said, yeah, you know, kids, the kids this age, I've got a couple of teenagers, yeah, they're always trying, he's just kind of poo-pooing the whole thing, and disregarding what we're telling him about the seriousness of the situation. And he's just totally invalidating everything that she was crying out to him. And so I don't know. I need to have her diagnosed. Because I don't think we can go anyplace from here unless she's been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. And at first she had apraxia because she didn't speak till she was 6. And global hypotonia, which is kind of like dyspraxia, which nobody acknowledges over here in the States. Let's see what else. I guess that's about it. But she's got really bad math deficiency. She can't do math. She still can't tell time. She's 16. So, all that processing, all the things that require processing, she can't do. And if I could get it diagnosed, I might be able to get her some help. But I'm not in the financial situation where I can do anything.
Is she having problems in school, with the school?
Oh yeah, they've got her in some specialized classes. They've got her. The
So
school.
have they done a complete workup on her?
Well, I have. I've taken her. She had a neuropsych eval.
How about the school? Have they done one too?
No, because the last time I had the school do one, they basically kind of did a mamby-pamby kind of thing where they figured that if they had to put it on paper, then they'd have to own it.
Yeah.
So it was just, she came out with like 100 IQ, and then the neuropsych gave her like a 78 IQ because of all the deficits. She's got like a normal IQ until you subtract all the deficits.
So, I was gonna say, there is, down in the Work Expo, we just came from there not too long ago, there is a Florida with Disabilities Advocacy Group down there, the organization, and they have a form that you can fill out where you can find, and you list that you need some help and assistance and advocacy for your daughter, and you can fill that out, and maybe they'll be able to help you.
Oh, okay, so it's Florida.
Florida Advocacy Disability Rights, yeah.
Disability rights.
Oh, disability.
Okay, well, we've gone a little bit over, but thank you everybody for participating. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank
And
you.
don't forget, at 6 o'clock, the summit starts downstairs. So, huh?